And welcome to the Strong Life Podcast. I'm your host and your boy, Zach Evanesh, the founder of the Underground Strength Gym. And each and every Strong Life podcast, we're going to talk to you guys about what it really takes to develop a strong body, a strong mind, and to live a strong life. Up in these neck of the woods, we ain't got time to be weak. We've only got time to kick ass and take names in life. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, action. All right, guys, welcome back to the Strong Life Podcast, and got a special guest here, Chad Howse, chadhousefitness.com. And those of you who have been listening to Strong Life Podcast, you've heard me mention his name when I read an excerpt from his article on Viking manhood lessons, and that article fired me up. I'm kind of was like upset that I never really came across your stuff until I saw that article, because I feel like we're like a little bit kindred spirits.
Yeah.
So that article was great. And I know the intent behind the article was, hey, listen, like, do things that get you a little bit uncomfortable. Eat stronger, live stronger, lift heavy stuff, develop your mind, develop your inner warrior spirit. And I knew, I saw this article on my friend Mark Devine's website. I knew there would be a lot of supporters. And then, of course, I knew there would be somebody that would have to cry and say, oh, how could you support Vikings? They would go and, wreck villages and all this bullshit. And it's like, this is the 21st century. People like you and I are just trying to inspire people to have some inner strength and not, cry and complain about things. So, sitting here doing the video podcast, for those of you that are listening, you'll catch the show notes at undergroundstrength.tv. Is that your library behind you?
Yeah. So lots of books.
Yes, awesome. I love to read as well. Just going through your website, you seem to have a real interesting blend of, you've got Man Up Monday, you've got this kind of blend of mind, body, spirit. I'm really connected with that. Mm-hmm. And when I look at your website, that stands out, as well as your before and after photos. So I guess talk to us about, what inspires you. You're very well read. It looks like there's several hundred books behind you, and you don't talk about training as well as I do, the way many other, I guess, online coaches do. They tend to talk about your abs, your chest, getting a bigger biceps. I don't know, that doesn't inspire me that much. I feel like that's just kind of the surface. So, what inspires you? Give us a little bit of background on the transformation of Chad Howse.
Well, what inspires me, I grew up you grew up an athlete. Like, I think that's pretty important for guys to grow up in sports. So I was always inspired in sports, and then getting into the workforce and the rat race and all that stuff, I kind of lost that. And I was never a reader growing up. I was never into the self-improvement or anything like that. But then I got into boxing a bit after I was done college, and that kind of started me. It's a skill. I competed. That was a skill that I developed. Then training, really got into training, and just use that as, like, you use it as a part of becoming better. You're not getting six-pack abs and that's your be-all end-all, but the training is a part of just self-improvement, of growth, and then the stronger you get, the better you are in that capacity, and that helps other areas of life as well.
Yes, without a doubt. It's like, it's a hard message, though, to get across to people that when you're training, we want you to train more or beyond the physical appearance, the surface. Mm-hmm. For me, I feel like really what inspires me is that, I've been kind of down the road of being weaker, and I always talk about the pain of regret versus the pain of discipline. And I know the downside to being not just physically weak, but also the emotional weakness, where you don't have control of your emotions, you don't control your mindset that well. So it inspires me to never go down that route, and it inspires me to teach others. And I talk a lot about my wrestling, my past in wrestling, and training extremely hard, but not really having a hard mindset.
Hmm.
What's some of the, I guess, setbacks you've had that inspire you to get to where you're at now, that want to make you be successful versus what I call a clock puncher, somebody who's just satisfied with go to work, do whatever's in the work description, be done. You seem like you're climbing and you're young too. Like how old are you?
I'm 29. I'm not too young.
That's young, brother.
So depends on where you're looking. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah, no, I think what like with you, failure was important. I needed to fail, so I started this. I started the online business. I sold my training business, or I gave it basically gave it away. So I wanted to, because I had the online business going and it wasn't going as well as I wanted it to. So I said, screw this, it's sink or swim. So I sank, and I needed to sink. I needed to sink for a while. I needed to have the bank account depleting, and I needed to really struggle and hustle, and I needed a year of that basically, or six months to a year of that. From a business standpoint, that failure, and just to try to find ways, different ways of earning an income. And then you learn, the more you help people in this line of work, the more you get to the core of what they need, the more you're rewarded. So I needed failure. I needed failure with training. I needed to, in boxing, I needed to lose. I needed to get my ass kicked in like, I needed failure being skinny for so long to try to get stronger. I needed failure in business to figure out how to win, and I'm still trying to figure out how to win, obviously. But yeah, failure is probably the biggest thing now that I think about it.
Yeah, I say very similar stuff. Joe DeSena interviewed me on his Spartan Up podcast, and he said, so, you've got two gyms, you've got an online business, seminars. He goes, why? Why are you successful? I go, well, I think it's because I failed so much. And
Yeah.
it's so painful. You get to a point where failure just hurts so bad. It holds you down. It kicks your ass so hard that
Hmm.
you're like, well, I'm either gonna surrender and die here, like getting my ass kicked by failure, or I'm gonna draw a line in the sand and never look back and fucking fight back and start punching shit in the face. I
Yeah.
try to equate that to the bully when we were in elementary school. There was always one bully, be it a boy
Yeah.
or a girl, and he or she bullied everybody until finally one person stood up and like beat the shit out of that bully. And
Yeah.
then the bully stopped coming around, and that's how things roll through your mind as a man, especially. Like you allow the circumstance to bully you around my job, where I live, my friends, my this, and then eventually you start realizing like that's all a bunch of bullshit you're running through your head. You have to punch that bully in the face and
Yeah.
fight back and say, you know what, I could climb the ranks in my job, or I don't have to be weak or skinny or fat, and I could change that. So I look at that photo. It's very inspirational, before and after photo. I'm going to post it up on the blog. Man,
Thanks.
you looked like you just came out of like some friggin' crazy boot camp. You were extremely skinny.
Yeah.
What was going on at that time that you looked so? I mean, you even had the look in your face that you almost looked like you were like a beaten up guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks. Uh,
But then the
I
transformation, it's like it looks like a guy who's beat down to a guy who just took control. The before and after photo of you just it speaks like to me a story of a man who stood up and fought back and took control versus letting circumstance control him. What was the turning point there that got you to change, and what were some of the influences?
the turning point, boxing helped a lot. Like I was in this is when I was younger. So I grew up playing basketball. I played basketball in college. And when you're in a sport and you think that's the sport's everything to you, and you don't quite do what you wanted to do in the sport, so your everything is kind of, you're basically, you fail. And then I went to boxing and I started fighting, and it was more about the enjoyment of the sport. I just loved getting in the ring and fighting and sparring and doing all that stuff. And so I did well for a guy who picked it up relatively late. And that was a big turning point. Even from the training standpoint, I started training business around that time, and I had to force myself to try to figure out how to get rid of my shitty genetics and gain muscle. And so I think again, failure was awesome. It helped. It showed me that uh, once you fail and you start succeeding, you realize that you can take the failure. It's not as bad as you always think it is. So when
Right.
you're faced with decisions in the future, it's more of a I don't have anything to lose kind of attitude. Like I can walk away from this, I can walk away from that, and I'll still find my way to success. And so I think failure with that, and then the literal getting in the ring and punching and fighting and feeling the pain of getting hit really hard, and then okay, it's not that bad, and you just keep
Right.
on going. So I think, yeah, probably the boxing, and then the constant failure. I don't know. It's a theme that keeps on popping up, but I think it's a great teacher.
Yeah. How did you, what was the inspiration to get into boxing? Was it a movie, a book, somebody you looked up to? Because boxing is, I love it. It's such a pure sport. I mean, I
Yes.
personally miss the days of, I'm 39, so when I was younger, middle school, high school, actually when I was late in high school, I think is when UFC came out. Back then
Yeah.
it was still called UFC, but they called it NHB, No Holds Barred Fighting. But I missed the purity of seeing guys like Mike Tyson coming out,
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield, even the lighter guys, Oscar De La Hoya, all that was just, Sugar Ray Leonard. It was such a pure sport, and every time I would see boxers train, I always noticed they trained in a very Spartan
Yeah.
setting. Mike Tyson would go to the Catskill Mountains and train in seclusion, and to me, it was something beautiful. So how do you go, and why do you go from basketball to boxing? What was the inspiration there?
I just always loved the sport. I think my old man got me a video about Muhammad Ali when I was like 4 or 5, and you always have that sport, but it never works its way into your life. Like I had
Right.
to go travel around to try to find a gym and really seek it out. It didn't come find me like all other sports like hockey or basketball or whatever. They kind of just it's a part of school. Basketball is, and then my old
Right.
man played hockey and stuff. So. I just wanted to see what it was like, and I ended up loving it. The training is the best. Oh man, like to get back to that stuff.
Yeah. What do
I love.
you talk about the training as you were fighting? What did a training session look like? And were you doing, I guess, a lot of stuff on your own plus with a trainer? How did it work?
Yeah, well, the thing about a lot of boxing gyms is they've got great trainers as far as teaching skill, but the actual training part is just do a ton of sit-ups, push-ups, run,
Run.
do chin-ups. It's not like the most strategic stuff. So I actually learned. That forced me to learn how to train because I wanted to get better, and then I ended up being the trainer within the boxing team and taking guys through all the workouts and stuff like that. So I had to figure that stuff out. We ended up doing a lot of heavy lifting and then um, repetition stuff. Just not a lot of the in between stuff.
Yeah, I've heard so many different realms of boxing training. A buddy of mine, Jeff Martone, he was one of the original RKC instructors. He was into boxing, and he had a buddy out in the Boston area, and all they had those guys doing were like low rep deadlifts,
Yeah,
kettlebell swings, get ups, and then you've got that crew of guys doing very like heavy lifting. And then a long time ago, probably this was before I even owned a gym, may have been like 9 years ago. I wrote an article for T Nation, and I went to the local prison. If you ever saw that movie Lockup with Sylvester Stallone,
yeah.
so that was the prison I went to, and the guy, I knew somebody that knew one of the lieutenants there, and he got me in, and I spoke to the lifers, and those guys were part of the original boxing team, and we spoke training, and the boxers trained like what you're saying, a lot of reps. They would do a lot of light barbell and dumbbell curls, a lot of push-ups, sit-ups, a lot of squats,
Yeah,
or they called them deep knee bends, and they would take the heavy bag and run up and down the stairs, and they would
yeah,
do stuff in a circuit. But they said their coach inside the prison never wanted them to lift heavy, and they still had the mentality. These guys were in their 40s and 50s when I was speaking with them, And
Yeah.
I'd have to go back to the article, but I think they were doing 500 push-ups every morning still, like 10 sets of 50.
Yeah.
They'd wake up an hour before it was breakfast, do 10 sets of 50. They would drink some green tea. It was cool to see how boxing, even though it was no longer something they did, the
Hmm.
training, it was like they still were boxers. Even though they weren't fighting anymore, it was still who they were.
Yeah.
It was still what they were. And I feel like that's in me too. Like I wrestled so long ago, and I look at your writings, and I could tell there's a combat slash warrior mentality behind it. So even though, are you still boxing now or no?
No, I'll hit the bag and stuff. I'll go to a boxing gym and spar every now and then, but
Right.
I have to get in the mode where it's a routine, or else it's just, you know.
You're gonna get your face
Yeah.
punched in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Oh,
something that you go in half prepared.
yeah, no, like going like 6, 7, 8 rounds was easy back in the day, but now it's just like a round, and you
Yeah.
realize how out of shape you are. It's insane.
Yes. All right, cool. Everybody hang tight. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be back in just a moment with Chad Howse of Chad Howse Fitness. Hang tight, everybody. Hey guys, this is Zach Evnish. Wanted to thank you for listening to the Strong Life podcast and hoping you could hook us up with a huge favor. Just go to iTunes, log in, and hook us up with a 5-star review if you love the information we're giving you. And if you can, share it on your Facebook or Twitter page and let everybody know what you're doing to live a strong life. And now let's get back to the show. Okay, guys, we are back with Chad of ChadHouseFitness.com, and we've been talking life, we've been talking training, combative training. When I go to your website, one thing that's I love is you have the Man Up Monday.
Yeah,
It just seems like you're really connected with, I guess, the crowd and the mentality of a lot of men. I think that not I think I know because I get the emails every day. I hear it from some of my friends. Is like men are just it's something weird. There's a lot of men that are not. I don't know how we define men, but they're not standing up. They're always kind of like I'm gonna have this job. I'm gonna do this until my retirement is ready. My pension. I hate Mondays. I hate Sunday night because it's Monday. I used to be there.
yeah,
When I was a middle school phys ed teacher for a year, and that shit crushed me. I couldn't wait for
yeah,
Friday, and Sunday afternoon sucked because I knew it was 1 hour closer to Monday morning. And I'm not gonna lie, it's tough to find a way to create your own path. But man, it's fucking way harder to live a life that you don't like that job or you don't like that career. So what were you working in like a typical job, I guess so to speak, before you went? Are you fully online now?
yeah. I'm fully online, so
What were you doing
I
before?
did. Pardon me.
What was going on before after college? Like what was your job?
I did a sales job. I worked corporate sales for one of the cell phone. I'm in Canada, so one of the cell phone companies up here, and
Yep.
I did that for I think 9 months, and it was good. But I'd get there at 6. Everyone else would flow in at like 8, 8:30, and
Yep.
whatever. And everyone was pretty, like you said, it was get me to Friday, and it's a commission business. So I get there early, make the calls, work as much as possible, and it was a commission business. Yet everyone was still kind of dreading the workday, and I was just, that wasn't a place, an environment I wanted to be in. So I started the training business, and then a friend of mine introduced me to the online stuff that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know you could quote unquote train people online.
Right.
But yeah, I think like the people that I worked with in that setting, they thought they just didn't have any control. Like they thought they didn't have any control. But if you look at it, like control your thoughts, you control your attitude, you control the work you put in, you control so much. And I think a lot of guys just feel like they don't have any control over their lives. But if you've read The Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl,
Amazing.
unbelievable book. And if guys can control their attitudes in a concentration camp, like how can we complain or wait for Friday or wait for whatever? when we've got a job and we're getting paid to do something.
Yeah.
So I think guys just they don't understand how much they actually do control, even in the worst settings.
Changes, Joe DeSanto always says, like, change your frame of reference. And he said that's
Yeah.
why he created Spartan Race, because people thought that life, they had this hard life. And then
Hmm.
he's like, so I wanted them to fucking experience some pain
It's
during a
awesome.
Spartan race so that pain would make them tougher and stronger and better at life, better
Hmm.
at being a mom, at being a dad, at being just, a high school kid. He's got, the races for everybody. And I tell it to my daughter too. I say, when she complains, they
Yeah.
complain about anything. I go. Let me ask you: do you have hot food on a plate? Do we live in a warm house? Do you have a blanket? Do you have new clothes? They say
Yeah.
yes. I go, if you want to complain, I will take you to a school and a town where the kids don't get food. They have to go to school early, so it's a warm place for them, so they could get food in the
Hmm.
morning. And being in any area of the country or in this world, I think,
Yeah.
just like where you are, where are you in Canada? What area?
Vancouver.
In every area of the world, there's the good and there's the bad. Like New Jersey, this morning I was speaking to a buddy of mine, and he lives in the second most affluent town in the country. He's up in North Jersey, right outside of New York City.
Yeah.
Well, New Jersey has that, but then 15 minutes away is some of the most dangerous places in the
Yeah.
country. And it's got to be the same with you. There's the affluent, there's the hood, there's the
Hmm.
farm. And sometimes we just have to bring ourselves into that reality. And you obviously seem very influenced with books. I see all these books behind you. Who turned you on to reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl? Did somebody recommend it?
I think my dad did. I think.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was never into reading growing up. I didn't read a book all throughout high school or college, not a single book, and somehow I somewhat passed.
Yeah.
But then when it's because you're force fed books, and
Yep.
then after that, I think business that job that was the sales job that the first book I read was the hell did some Dale Carnegie book I think
Yeah,
about
probably How to Win Friends and Influence. Is he How to Win Friends and Influence People? I
think
think.
so. Yeah,
Yep.
I think that might have been the book,
Or
or a
leadership.
sales book by him or something, and then that
Yep.
led to more books.
And what's so interesting is all those books, even though they might be a quote unquote business book or a quote unquote sales book, I feel every time the biggest emphasis they put on is changing your attitude.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, you change your mind, you change your life. They talk about an abundance attitude,
Hmm.
and you and I are in the, I guess, the fitness industry. Maybe that's like the broader term, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of people in that industry or gym owners who are have a lack mentality, meaning
Yeah.
they have a gym. A gym is opening up near them. They start worrying. They start looking at their prices and doing all that. And I've been there before too, until I
Yeah.
started realizing and changing my mind. Like, there's enough pieces of the pie for everybody.
Hmm.
And the abundance mentality, and of course, the pursuit of excellence. Competition is good.
Yeah. It is.
It shows who's going to rise above and who's going to raise the standard for what how to develop results and whatnot. So, but the
Hmm.
mindset is key. I won't go into a little bit of training stuff here. Talk about how you created that transformation of yourself. I guess we'll touch upon the physical training, and then we could get into the mindset. But it looks like you gained quite a lot of muscle in that before and after photo. So I just want to hear maybe some training, some more like the important training strategies that you implemented to make that happen.
Yeah, it's just simple stuff. But like I didn't play football in high school, and the football guys, they were shown how to train, you know? So I didn't play that. Basketball, you kind of just run around and play basketball. They don't
Yes.
really tell you what to do in the gym.
Yeah.
So then the only exposure I had to working out was the bodybuilding stuff. And that just didn't go well with my body. I didn't really get any stronger or bigger doing the bodybuilding stuff.
What were you
No matter
doing?
what,
Like 3 sets of 10 with the body?
yeah, and yeah, body part splits, and
Gotcha.
it just didn't do well. So basically, when I changed to the Olympic lifts, the bigger, heavier lifts, bigger muscle groups, lower reps, focusing more on power and strength, that's when I started seeing gains. And that's kind of where I focus most of my stuff around. We still do conditioning and bodybuilding type stuff, but
Right.
it's like strength helps everything. Helps fat loss, muscle gains, and especially if you're staying away from the steroids or the drugs or whatever, strength is probably the best thing you can focus on.
Yeah,
So that
without
helped
a
me.
doubt. What were you doing? A full body workout or upper lower split? How were you kind of organizing your training?
Um, so I did full body for a
Hmm.
little bit, and then I would do push pull, and then upper lower, and then like a workout focused on getting the four big lifts in twice a week.
Yep.
So like squat twice a week, deadlift twice a week, bench twice a week, and
Clean.
overhead press twice a
Overhead
week.
press.
And so I'm just kind of rotating between that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and then and kind of incorporating that into the boxing training, and it all meshed pretty well. It's not
Right.
rocket science. It's just structuring a program where you improve every month and every week, and yeah, eating the
The
right foods.
the one of my big points I like to hammer home to people is that the amateur wants to impress everybody with the complication behind it and the real
Yeah,
the craziness behind everything and the rep tempo, slow, hold, this and that. Where
yeah,
the expert, he or she completely understands that there's beauty and there's true power behind the basics and the
yeah,
simplicity. And I think Bruce Lee has kind of like a quote out there that's along those similar lines is that, the man who does one kick 10,000 times
yeah,
versus a thousand different kicks. It's
yeah.
like that in training, and I've seen that since I was a kid. Since I started training at the YMCA in 1989, the strongest guy there was really minimizing his variety. He would
Hmm.
bench, he would deadlift, he did lots of chins and
Hmm.
dips, weighted chins, heavy, easy bar curls,
Yeah,
tricep push downs, dumbbell bench. Like he was just, I feel like he had less than 10 exercises, but he
yeah,
was so big. He was built so differently than everybody. He was built like a tank when
yeah,
everybody else was kind of pretty looking.
yeah.
And
It's like with
yeah,
that training, my body went from I was basically my shoulders were as wide as my neck. Like I was a skinny guy. But then with that training, like your body just changes shape and it feels like your skeleton's changing shape. You're getting bigger and like
bone
thicker and
mass.
everything, but you're just consistent and you're doing the same you're improving week after week and you're doing simple things and after a year of doing that you're gonna a much different body.
Yeah, and I think people, you mentioned you're being a hard gainer. I feel like 90% of people are hard gainers.
Yeah.
Like, it is fucking hard work.
Yeah.
There are certain people that are genetically gifted. They're already built, they're carved up. I feel like
Mhm.
that's a 10, maybe even less than 5% of people. I mean, people look at me and they're like, your kids are going to be so big. You're big. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I was a skinny piece of nothing. I
Yeah.
was nothing. I got anytime there was a fight, I got beat up. I mean, I was weak. I
Yeah.
said everything is earned. I'm not genetically gifted. The workouts I've gone through, I mean, they've just been brutal. And not only that, it took a long time. Not that it takes a long time to get big. I started competing in bodybuilding 5 year, 13 and a half, like 5 years after I began working
Mhm.
out. But since then, that I began training in 1989. But it was always hard work. It was always basics, and of course, eating. I know you have a book out called The Man Diet. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how you came about that, and what inspired you to actually create something. Because some of the guys listening, some of the women listening, are entrepreneurs or have an entrepreneurial spirit. They want to do something, but it's like, I don't know if this is the right. They're looking at what everybody else is doing, and it seems like you're doing a good job of creating from the heart. Like this is what's important to you, and
Hmm.
you're gonna share this message. So why the man diet? What's the inspiration behind it?
Well, that thing you just mentioned that everyone's trying to get the right thing. Like mastermind groups and these different groups of people that
Yes.
get together and they really bounce ideas off each other. They're really good. I had to get away from that stuff just because I needed to focus on my voice and focus on writing stuff that was like true to what my readers wanted and stuff. So I had to get away from they're very helpful influences, but they're still influences. So I had to step back and just write stuff. And then the man diet came up kind of organically, getting my testosterone levels checked, doing research how to increase testosterone levels, and the whole thing is focused around helping guys increase their testosterone levels through natural ways, like because you go to the doctor and he's going to tell you, oh, if you have low testosterone, try these injections or whatever. There's
That's right.
natural ways to do it that don't mess.
Doctors are so quick to just
I know.
prescribe stuff. A buddy of mine, actually Kelly Storette always says, he goes, when you go to a doctor, ask your doctor if he knows what a deadlift is, and then
Yeah.
ask him if he even does the deadlift, right?
Yeah.
So it's like doctors move you towards surgery, they move you towards medicine. So what are some of the things that you did to increase testosterone naturally?
Well, the simple thing was to increase dietary fat because testosterone comes from cholesterol, which we convert into testosterone. So I just increased dietary fat.
What kind of foods, just for the people listening, if they, some people are confused between what like a healthy fat is. Could you just give some examples?
Just non man made fat. So anything that's like a natural fat, eggs, any animal. Animals are awesome, like beef, even pork and fish. Fish is great. So anything with real fat, saturated, saturated, and monounsaturated. So I have a pretty high meat diet,
Yep.
but lots of eggs, fruits, vegetables. Obviously, vegetables are a huge part. But I increased the amount of meats I was eating and the eggs I was eating. That was one thing, and then like with testosterone, you have to come at it from one angle, which is create more testosterone. But from the other angles, you have to lower your cortisol levels and estrogen levels. So got rid of all plastics. Doesn't matter if it's BPA free plastic or anything. It's just no plastics anywhere. I'm not drinking out of plastic water bottles. I'm not having my food in plastic.
Where do you
I just
get
saw.
your? What about your water? Where do you get your water from then?
I have well, I have a like when I'm at home, I just use a beer stein or whatever,
Yeah.
and then Pellegrino bottles.
Yep.
Pellegrino, you can get them for 69 cents or so whatever it is at Safeway.
And
So
they're
I just drink the
glass.
Pardon me,
That's a glass bottle.
glass bottle. So I just
Yeah.
carry glass.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay. What about let you're an online entrepreneur. You spending less time on the computer? I mean, this shit'll make a woman out of you.
yeah, I know. I know. I actually bought I bought a dog recently because I know that is a problem. So I bought a dog so that I'll get up 3 times a day to
Me too.
go.
My dog's taking a nap, but after
Yeah,
this, she'll be she's taking a nap.
what a cutie!
She's right there, but
Is that a
we're
Doberman?
we're out in the morning, then again in the early afternoon, and then
Yeah.
I'm running my gym. If I'm not at my gym, I'll also go out before nightfall. I take her to the dog park. She runs like crazy. Sometimes I'll ride my bike with her. Before her, I had a dog. He was older. He would just walk, but I would walk down it was called a bike path. I
Yeah.
would do that in the winter, and it
Hmm.
was super desolate, and it was super relaxing and regenerating to my body. It was quiet. There's
Hmm.
just all the trees, and you feel like a different kind of connection. Sitting in front of a computer too long is just it's bad
But
news. Yeah,
it
bad
is.
news. So you've got a dog, so you're outside more.
Well, I bought him. He's not. I was traveling for a bit. I was in Argentina for 3 months, so I picked him up when he was there. But he's got to get shipped back. So
What kind of dog?
it's called a Dogo Argentino.
Is it a big
It's
dog?
yeah, they're 120 pounds around that.
Wow,
They're
awesome.
the story is pretty cool. They're bred to hunt big game. So
Damn.
this not nut job, but an eccentric guy kind of bred this dog.
Yeah. I can't wait to. I'm gonna Google image these dogs. What were you
Yeah.
doing out in Argentina?
I took the past year. Last year, I kind of traveled. There's a couple places I wanted to visit. I went to Italy for 3 months. My mom's from there, so I just traveled around Italy, working at the same time.
What kind of work? Online work or
Yeah,
other?
just online stuff. So I was doing what I'm doing every day here
Yep.
at home, but from a different place. So
Interesting. I
yeah,
love it. So,
uh,
and how did you find a place to stay? What website did you use to rent? I know there's a lot of different websites. Tim Ferriss talks a lot about kind of finding cheap places to stay abroad. How did you find places to stay in Argentina and Italy?
yeah. The Airbnb was a place that I used,
Yep.
but then you look at you meet people, and then they'll invite. Somehow you'll get a place just from meeting someone.
Yep.
But then, like Expedia was good. Like you'll match up depending on where you are. If the places are really out there, Airbnb won't have anything. And
Meaning
so
in like a non-city area, correct?
exactly, yeah, yeah. So sometimes Expedia has something. So you just kind of look around. I didn't. I kind of went did it. I booked places as I went.
Nice.
So I'd book a place for a week, and then go to a different place, and then go to a different place.
And why and just why did you want to travel? What was some of your inspiration behind that?
Well, my I like a lot of my pals are married,
Yep.
and I'm seeing what they're doing, which is awesome. Like they've got the family, they've got this great meaning in their life, they've got the house, the kids, the whole thing. And so I'm like, hey, well, in my situation, what's the best thing I could possibly do? And
Yep.
so the first thing was travel. I could travel and kind of just do what I want. And then the second thing is I can work all day, every day without these other responsibilities. So
Right.
last year was travel. This year is just pure work, and probably next year pure work, and the next year pure work.
Awesome. I love
Yeah,
it though. That's a great kind of making yourself uncomfortable going out, traveling alone.
yeah,
I think there's a lot to that. There's a lot of like soul searching to be done. And I think guys are afraid, or people in general are afraid to do stuff alone.
yeah,
But
big
many
time.
times, I say if you're waiting for somebody, you're just going to be waiting, and sometimes you just can't wait around for other people to move at
Yeah,
your pace, and
yeah.
you got to do that. How did you train traveling to Argentina and Italy, places that probably don't have the kind of gyms that you might be going to and whatnot? Did you just train body weight? What did you do?
Yeah, no, I had to do body weight a fair bit, but then there was different places where I would hike a lot. Like in Argentina, they've got the Andes and stuff. I'd hike horseback riding, like a lot of stuff like that. So there were weeks where I wouldn't train, but I would do active things.
Yes.
And then you get to a city. Every city's got gyms. They're just not the greatest gyms. So I would get in there and do what I can with whatever weight they had.
Right.
Kept it pretty consistent.
Yeah, I think when I look at training, I don't think about it has to be with a barbell or a piece of
Mhm.
equipment. I look at it like training. I don't discriminate. Like
Yeah.
I look at training as I'm going surfing, I'm going
Hmm.
mountain biking, I'm going to use the kettlebell in the backyard, or I'm
Yeah.
running. If I'm doing something, to me, that's all part of training. I used to be very regimented. I remember, I never forget, my buddy was like, dude, let's go mountain biking. I'm like, not today, dude. Today's leg day,
Yeah.
And that was
It's
back when
like
I
same
was
thing.
bodybuilding, and that is, I look at that like, that was a real limited way of thinking.
Yeah.
This was long ago, before I was in any of the business or any kind of this training. But
Hmm.
now I just don't discriminate. I'll do anything that makes me feel good, makes me feel strong physically and mentally.
Hmm.
Let's just close out with a little bit of the inspiration behind the your website and the message you're getting across. You've got a couple different things on the website. There's Man Up Monday.
Yeah.
What are the inspiration? You wrote the Viking manhood lessons. What inspired you to
Yeah.
write that? Where did that come from?
Um. Well, like the manliest content. It kind of just came out of. I ask a lot of questions, and I try to answer the questions. So this isn't me telling people what to do. It's me genuinely trying to be more disciplined, trying to get more control over my life, trying to control my thoughts, trying to work harder, doing all this stuff, and it comes out in
It's
different
like your own.
articles.
I feel
Yeah,
like the same. Like my blog is my journal,
yeah,
and in a
exactly.
way, I'm not just inspiring and educating others, but I'm doing the same stuff. When I write about it, it inspires me to make sure that I be about it, not just
Uh-huh.
write or talk about it. And I felt a lot of that energy from your website.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's kind of the focus. It's not you're just trying to find answers to questions, and if it comes out right, like the Vikings one, like I had watched the Vikings TV show, which is a good
Yep.
TV show,
Yep.
and kind of started thinking about that stuff. And I think I was reading The Warrior Ethos with
Awesome.
Stephen Pressfield, and
Yes. Freaking awesome.
oh, I love that book. And then yeah, that article came out, and just and you get content from questions people ask as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like you get even with dating and stuff. I get a lot of guys. How do I find the right lady? You don't find the right lady. You just focus on improvement, and whoever comes into your life, you communicate with them, and but you're not going running around looking for someone to fill a void.
Yeah.
You've kind of got to work on that stuff yourself. So
Things are different. Like today, I'm married with kids, but I feel like I almost feel bad for the guys of today who want to just, I understand you can meet people online, but there was a certain purity to having to approach that girl at the
I know,
bar, to having to find a way to connect with that girl without a matching website or any of that stuff. And, those things I think are stuff that guys should experience, that they should
yeah,
try to do it in a little bit, what I call like get comfortable being uncomfortable. And one thing, man, I wrote about this so long ago, but I learned my lesson of like approaching hot girls. I remember I was a freshman in college, and it was like my first few days there, and I remember seeing this girl, and I was like, holy shit, that girl is so hot. She must be a Victoria's Secret model.
yeah,
And she was, we were in college. We were both freshmen, and she went to college with a friend of hers from high school, a guy. And then we had a class together sophomore year. And then I became friends with that guy, and he's like, dude, he's like, I can't believe you. He's like, this girl's name was Joanna. He's like, Joanna thought you were so hot. She's like, she couldn't wait to see you anytime we passed. She's like, he goes, I don't know why you never said anything to her. He's like, she was hoping that one day you would just approach her and ask her and talk to her or something. And that lesson, that's again like a lesson in failure that taught me that, like, for the guys out there, if you see a hot girl, go and approach that hot girl and just be you. Introduce yourself, say hi. Simple. It's almost like
yeah.
training. It's not complicated.
No,
It's simple. I know there's all kinds of websites out there on
oh
dating
man,
and seduction and all that, but you want to know
yeah,
what? Like men, I mean women, they want men that are just women are looking for men that are strong, that
yeah,
are confident, that aren't, talking a bunch of shit. And if women are looking for men that are kind of like crazy and stupid, like what you'd see on like MTV Jersey Shore, then that's
yeah.
not the kind of girl you want to be with anyway. But
You
that
don't want
lesson
that
taught
headache.
me, if you see a hot girl, go for it. The
Yeah,
time to do it is now.
yeah.
That
No,
was a
big
that
time.
was a that was a big lesson to me. And you know what? Like the simplicity behind that, I feel like it applies to everything, even in business, like
Mm.
running a successful business. It's simple stuff that people don't want to talk about, like genuinely caring,
Hmm.
listening, taking action, being clean, being on time, being consistent. Like these are not tricks or marketing tactics. They're just simple things that should be done in life, in business, in dating. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah, it's, you got to work for whatever you want.
Got to
Even
earn it.
the online dating thing, you should have to work for a lady. You should have to do something to get something. You shouldn't have to just click a button or whatever.
It's true.
It's stuff's
So
easy.
yeah, things are easy, and I wonder if that that makes it easy for a relationship to fall apart. But
I
when you're
agree.
kind
Yeah.
of like fighting for things to work and to really make it work, being an entrepreneur, it's super easy to when you also an online entrepreneur, you have all this freedom, the
Hmm.
flexibility to work at any time you want. So it's important that you learn to discipline yourself and wake up early and do some work so you could maybe have breakfast with your lady.
Hmm.
Uh, Stop working at a certain time in the evening to make sure you could enjoy a good dinner with your lady or with your family. And
Yeah.
those things are important because they say, oh, you can work whenever you want from wherever you want. Like you're working in Italy and Argentina, but they never say be careful because you could allow yourself to work around the clock, and that
Yeah.
could
Ruin
really
your
that
life.
could fuck up your life.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So this has been cool, man. Can you just for the people listening on iTunes or Stitcher, I want you to give them some links to your website where they could find out about you. And then for those that want to catch the show notes, go to undergroundstrength.tv. You could see the video with Chad. Chad and I'll post up some of your training videos on the blog. Maybe
Thank
you
you.
could shoot me an email with like three of your favorite books that are sitting on that big ass bookshelf behind you, and
Okay.
we'll add some unique elements to the blog. So go to undergroundstrength.tv. Make sure you guys hook us up with a 5-star rating on iTunes. And Chad, give us some of your links where people could connect with you, ask questions, read about you, and so on.
So chadhousefitness.com is the main one, but I think if you just Google Chad House,
Yes.
Chad Howse, you should find the site. And Twitter, it's just my name, Chad House, and Facebook, you just go Chad House Fitness, I think.
Yeah,
So
so if you Google Chad, you're going to come up with a lot of his articles. Great stuff. I'll post some of your YouTube videos,
thank
some
you,
great
appreciate it.
stuff. And man, I appreciate you being on the show. And everybody, thanks for listening to the Strong Life Podcast. Hit me up, guys, through Twitter or Instagram at Zevanesh or Facebook, Zach's fan page. Now, I'm like Chad, just Google and you'll find a way for us to help you out. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll talk to you during the next episode.